Young people getting addicted to their smartphones is rapidly growing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Scorpion Podcast, episode 28. And on this episode, we have Franck Martin, who is a French technologist and experimental electronic music artist. His entire style has been the habit of blending immersive sound design with cutting-edge engineering expertise. And we're going to talk to him more about like the intersection of technology as well as music, his experiences in the entire industry, and things related to that. In the past, Scorpion Podcast has had a vast majority of musicians on, and they have each taken a very different stance in how they express, sort of their style and their type of music and the things that they produce. Often, we've spoken to music producers like Colin Marston, who had a 4.5 hour discussion with us about his different styles. So it is nevertheless interesting to speak to someone like Frank, who has many years of experience in the industry. So, Frank, first of all, welcome to the show. Usually, around the start of these podcasts, we let the guests sort of introduce themselves so that the host or me, particularly for this episode, as Jordan is missing, don't give out the wrong idea of who the person is. So, without further ado, introduce yourself, where you're from, the type of work that you do, and what you've done in the past.
Oh, thanks, Jacob. Thanks for welcoming on your podcast. Very honored. Yeah, I'm Franck Martin. What can I say? I was born and raised in France, and I moved to Fiji, where I lived for 20 years, and now that's about 14 years. I'm in the Bay Area, San Francisco, the Silicon Valley. Uh, I always like electronic music. I got the first record from Jean-Michel Jarre, but also looking to some others. I did some studies in Marseille where I was with some friend people that were student um, there was a unit in the CNRS there, the Center of Research that were doing experimental music. So I was a friend with some of them, but just from a listener perspective and liking this stuff. And then time has passed and everything, and I came here in San Francisco, and I used to do kite surfing in Fiji, and here the water is too cold. Plus, there's a lot of traffic, and I saw a documentary on the electronic music. I Dream of Wires, and that was back to the origin of electronic music using modular. And I discovered there was a local shop that was selling those, so I went there, and then they were having some concert, and I started to acquire some equipment. Um, at the same time, there was a memorial for Don Buchla
Hmm.
at the Gray Area, and I listened to Susan Cheney, and she was doing a quadraphonic concert, and I listened to it, and I said, okay, this is what I want to do. I like when the sound move from left to right, even on stereo. So that's the beginning of my search into making music and making music in space.
Yeah, wonderful. So you sort of mentioned that early interest in electronic music, and that is something that you were always quite interested in. It's my understanding that a lot of people they start out as being more of a listener or a reviewer to actually creating it along the way. So inevitably, when did this like interest in actually making music yourself or producing it arise? Did it arise around the time that you were studying in France?
Um, I found it, when I was studying in France, I was, I don't know, studying, I don't know, say, a complex level of mathematics and physics. And to be able to focus, I didn't like to be in the silence, so I always been listening to music. And the one that I preferred that was instrumental music, because with word, then your brain start to focus on the word and not the word on the paper. So instrumental music was giving me a background, and that was helping me to focus. So I listened to a lot of music, and um, also the side experimental, and getting out of the boundaries, having a complete space like electronic music allow you to do that, because there's no boundaries. It's not like a rock band. Rock bands are very nice. I like all style of music, but there's a format, there's a standard, and electronic, you can break all the standard. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So that's the interesting part. Um, So I was more, yes, as a listener. And I kind of like this. I forgot who did this quote, but when you start to make music, then it's interesting because it's, your listening time tells you what good music is.
Hmm.
But then after you try to execute it, and then that's why you fail.
Hmm.
But you know that, okay, I know what's good music. I'm not able to produce it. So you need to learn techniques. You need to spend some time. So your sense of critique is very good, but your execution is not there. So
Hmm.
that takes time to get your sense of execution to the same level of your level of critique. So when you start as a musician, you shouldn't desperate because that's always the gap that there is. You make your music and you say, "Oh, it's crap." Yes, because you don't know to execute it, but you know what's good. So you just need to get there.
Right. That skills and that expertise. Yeah, I think that's pivotal to a lot of people who are not only just starting out in this field where they don't quite understand it. There's a lot of sort of innovation that's been going around you for the past several years, obviously in the entire like music production world, but
Mm.
around you generally. So there's this word that pops up a lot of the times when I, try to search here, do a little bit of research for the podcast, and that's things regarding like I believe it was what you called prior to the start of the podcast, special composition. And more understandably, there are different kinds of technologies, maybe somewhat unrelated to this, like Dolby Atmos. Can you tell me a little bit more about these technologies and how like spatial sound and things like that are sort of changing the scene?
Yeah, um, so I would say, space in sound has always been there, especially with live music,
Yeah.
In live music, if you look at a rock band, what is it? The bassist is on the left, the guitarist is on the right or the opposite, and the drummer is at the back, and then the singer is in the front. So already there's a space,
Hmm.
and the music is coming from that space, and it's kind of codified. But also, if you look at an orchestra, the violins are on the left, and then the altos are on the right. So there's also a codification of the music in space. And if you change that, everything change. There's some, early experimentation of, where people put speakers around the space, or, I don't know, if you go to some expo, they put the bird sound hidden in the middle, to recreate an atmosphere. So space has always been there. But for a long time, the tool for us to listen to it didn't have it. First it was mono, then it became stereo. And there was a time in the 70s where people tried to upgrade from stereo to quadraphonic. So there's a method to encode 4 tracks into 2 tracks on the vinyl. There's a SQ and QS, I think, two technology. But it's analog. Unfortunately, this technology were a little bit cumbersome and there are some drawbacks. And also, people needed to buy some new equipment. So everybody that had bought stereo system needed to buy quadraphonic system. And these are, it's a little bit like an hi-fi system. It's expensive.
Hmm.
So there's a very small market for it, rather
Hmm.
than everybody having a Walkman and moving in the street or having a boombox. So the quadraphonic space was only reserved for people with enough money and home and having their home studio. So it didn't pick up. But there was some early experiment of quadraphonic music. Um, Pink Floyd did a lot of quadraphonic concert,
Yeah.
in the, what was it, 70s, 80s. Susan Chaney was doing some quadraphonic also. So the Buchla modular synthesizer was designed with a quadraphonic module in it. So there was this part that existed, and then it started to disappear. Um, on my progress, when I listened to Susan Cheney, I said, okay, yeah, I'd like, in stereo, I like when the sound start on one side and then finish on the other side. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting for me. Some people say, I don't know. A friend told me, I don't like you, electronic musician, because you get the guitarist to run around the stage.
Hmm. Yeah.
But that's what I like in electronic music is to be able to move sound around. It's not tied to a person that is performing music. Um, so I started to do some quadraphonic music, and there was no tools to distribute it. I could use 5.1, so I did some video. So I have a DVD that I use 5.1, and you put just some generic video, but it was more for the sound. So I did this stuff, but it was very hard to distribute it. And then it's roughly at the same time that Dolby Atmos started to come. So Dolby evolved from the stereo. So when it came quadraphonic, it didn't work. But on the movie theater perspective, Dolby started to offer a surround system, left, right, and then the speaker at the back to give a little bit of surround. And then they evolved from there to 5.1, 7.1. And then they realized that, okay, how far do we go? 9.1, 10.1, and everybody has got different. And every engineer has to master for every format. So if you
Yep.
do a stereo, then you need the 5.1, which is different than the 7.1, and that's becoming complicated. You need to produce like 10 different master. So that's when object-based started to come. At the same time, also, we added the technology because some of these systems, we could do it in analog, but they're very complicated in analog. So no, we added, having a processor in anything is cheap nowadays and easy. So we started to use this technology for that. So that's where object-based format started to evolve, like
Yeah.
Dolby Atmos. And then I saw it. And when Apple decided to say, okay, well, we are going to make an Atmos streaming format, Amazon Music and Tidal had it before Apple Music, but once Apple came in and say, hey, we're gonna integrate it also in our headset with binaural. Binaural is just a way to change the music in such a way that it sounds like it's coming from a location.
Yeah.
Just
Like behind you or in front of you or around you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, if you've got a sound source, it's gonna reach your two ears
Yes.
at different time.
Hmm.
So just only this difference of time allow you to locate the sound. So it depends on frequency and everything, but this kind of stuff. So if you know where is your sound source, then you can calculate, okay, how do I modify the sound so that people think that it's coming from that location?
Right.
So we also had this technology in binaural. So making available a Dolby Atmos format in Apple Music with binaural so that everybody who has got an AirPod could listen to it.
Hmm.
Because 99% of the people may listen to music on AirPod, and then only 1% will have the money to have a home theater system.
Right.
So you kind of compose for the home theater system, but then automatically it works for 99% of the other population. So you've got a market, not like broad
Right.
market, but it's easy for people to get access to it. So that's why I
Because
started
then
to
then the
move to
people with
Dolby
like the
Atmos.
actual home theater system as you described and the equipment to play this kind of audio, they will instantly start seeking, ways that they can possibly use the equipment that they already have. They can start seeking ways to actually like feel as if they are at an actual live concert because of the spatial audio around them. I wanted to touch upon like the actual like binaural aspect of it that you were talking about. Because I remember around, I think it was 10 or 9 years ago, these videos kept popping up on the internet and they were just like spatial audio, like three-dimensional audio, four-dimensional audio. They were like music and people would filter them using like uh, audio recording and modifying software. And these were like very simple tricks. They would change the location of where the audio was coming from. They would like modify it. And I think like over the past few years with like the increase of AI, people have been able to do this sort of thing like much quicker and much easier. You were describing how ages ago, like in the 70s and in the 80s, when Pink Floyd was focusing on the quadraphonics, I believe it was you were saying, this sort of technology was very expensive. Around what time did this technology become like easier, like more accessible, less expensive? And what exactly is it like technically? Like how is it made?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So it was expensive, maybe not necessarily for the engineers and producers, the music
Hmm.
creator. So there's a component on that, but this were expensive production already.
Yeah.
but expensive for the listener because you need to buy some equipment, you need to buy the the right amplifier and decoder and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So I would say there was. So you had also another technology that came from a little bit from the analog world, which was ambisonic.
Yeah.
So ambisonic is more based on microphone, I would say, but it's also a representation of the world. Um, I don't know if you see on microphone, usually you've got a cardioid, so it's several representation. Okay, this microphone is going to listen to that space in front of you,
Hmm.
and not what's happening behind. So ambisonic is a little bit this kind of representation. So on this channel, you will have the front. On this channel, you will have the left. On this channel, you will have the right and the back, and then the top, the bottom. And then from there, you can go to more orders where you will have only this part of focus and etc. So that allows you to represent the sound in 360.
Right.
And that was easy for the analog, but we have little equipment to represent that.
Okay.
So there was this research, and yeah, that was pushed for ambisonic. I think one step that happened, so I think is, I don't know, back to Susan Cheney,
Hmm.
a friend of mine, Cameron, started to develop a plugin to convert. It was based roughly on the quadraphonic SQ and QS, but a plugin also to encode in 4 channel into 2 and decode it. And he released Susan Cheney as the first quadraphonic vinyl in a long time. I forgot when that was released. I don't know, uh, 2010, 2010, 2015. So that was the first time that somebody released a quadraphonic album again.
Hmm.
And they were selling it with a little electronic circuit that allow you to, you play it on your vinyl, and instead of connecting um, the turntable output directly to your speaker, you would pass it through this electronic and then have 4 output, and then you put 4 speakers. So there was a little bit this renewal there, and I explored this format. But then, yeah, Dolby Atmos came in, coming from the movie side. Dolby had all the tools for this surround system for movie theater. And then people say, well, why don't I make, why not I remove the movie and just use the audio? And I think that was the stuff. So Dolby started to explore this stuff because, a movie theater, you've got that many, there's a finite number of movie theater in the US, and I think they saw that as an opportunity to go into music. And I don't know where it came from. I think Julius was saying that the first, I think, Atmos for music was a West Side, I think a West Side Story that they
Yeah.
that they did. Um, so that came in, and then the tools were there, and then so the question was to find channel to distribute it, and I think Tidal jumped on it first. You could also make Blu-rays. Yeah, with Dolby Atmos in it, and all the Blu-ray reader will read the Atmos, and you can have an Atmos decoder. So that was the capability. And first you had to buy the Dolby Atmos renderer, but then with Apple they started to integrate that into Logic.
Hmm.
So you could have a Dolby Atmos renderer and use your favorite DAW, and then use a plugin that would say, okay, well, this track, I'm sending it to the Dolby Atmos renderer, and this is this object, and this object
Yes.
is located in space. So the renderer will convert the object into whatever sound system you had. But then they started to integrate that directly into Logic as one of the many DAWs. Pro Tools started to integrate it also. So if you want to do Dolby Atmos, um, you get Logic, it's $200, um, and you've got it integrated. You use your AirPod if you don't have all the speakers,
Hmm.
and then you can do it. You can start to compose, and then you book a studio, Dolby Atmos studio, to get the final rendering.
Yeah.
Usually they recommend that to have a 714 studio, So 714 means that you've got two speakers in the front, two in the middle, two behind. That's six. Center speaker, that's seven.
Yeah.
And then four speaker on the top. So you can see I've got two speakers behind me, but there's two in front of me also.
Yeah.
I've got not a 7.1 because I don't have the room. I've got a 5.1.4. And
Mhm.
the dot one is a subwoofer. Uh,
Right.
so so the tools are there. If you don't have the means to buy, usually everybody have got two speaker, maybe a subwoofer. If you do techno, you want a subwoofer for the oomph. If you don't have the means to buy, what is it, 8 extra speakers, then you can work on AirPod, get your special composition and hear it, and then go to a final studio to really listen it in the 714 environment and just finalize it. So it's available to people, distributors. There's many distributors that allow you to distribute Atmos.
Hmm.
I'm using LNR, but I started first with DistroKid. There's a couple of them that allow you to upload an Atmos master. So you upload an Atmos master, a stereo file together, and it will be distributed everywhere.
Yeah,
But
I'm
on the
familiar with
service
it.
that do it. So from a technology perspective, it's easy.
Hmm.
Um, no, it's a question of getting it to work. And I think I was listening to I think BT. He say, do whatever you want as long as it's with intent.
Yeah.
So when you compose music, make it with intent. I'm using
Yeah.
this compressor because not because I read somewhere that I need to use a compressor. It's that I want this compressor to do that kind of sound. I want to place this sound here, you know, because I want to have it there, not because somebody told me that it should be there. So do whatever you want, but with intent.
Yeah, a couple things that this made me think of. First of all, I'm familiar with DistroKid. I'm familiar with their weird, charging rates, but that also that you can distribute a lot of this new, these new compositions on the internet now. I feel like that's a brand new landscape.
Yeah.
Second of all, I feel like from what you're describing, this entire like the turning points of this technology from early on to much later on, which is exactly what I asked you to do. I feel like it has like rapidly like evolved over time in the sense that at first it was a very early thing that was being adopted by a few people, and now there's this like rush among different companies to start making like their own equipment to start pandering to this still quite small base of people that will be using this to listen to music, to put on performances, things like that. And lastly, the sentiment that you gave about intent. I feel like that's very common among not only musicians but people who are learning any craft, where they try to start like from the top up. They believe that, like they want to emulate the greats, the people who they believe are the best, their inspirations in a certain field. Um, and they often start by trying to make the music that's very music, for example, the music that's very similar to theirs, art that's very similar to theirs, and they use the same techniques. But quite often, depending on the style, it's not as applicable to use the same exact equipment and to manufacture things in the same exact way. When over time it may turn out that the way that you do it is something that's completely different from the way that others do it. That's something that makes me think about. It's just my relative interpretation of what you were saying. I wanted to touch a little bit upon those influences, though. When researching you, I did very often see the name Jean-Michel Michel Jarre, Jarre.
Michel Jarre, sorry. Yeah.
Jean-Michel Jarre. That's the way that was pronounced. Again, the poor French, but yeah, Jean-Michel Jarre. How did he influence you? What is it about his work that you find similar to your own?
Well, I think it was it was one of the early producer of composer of electronic music with the album Oxygen,
Mm-hmm.
and it was coming from the Pierre Schaeffer school, which is concrete music. Concrete music is it's a big name, but it's just samples
Mm-hmm.
that you put together. And samples, you go in the street and you record the car passing and you record the door closing, and that's concrete music. It was the early day of sampling with tapes,
Right.
and you speed up the tape and all this kind of stuff. So that's a little bit, summarize concrete music. So he was from the school of Pierre Schaeffer, and I studied under him. And but he was not, I don't know, he didn't go too much on the experimental music. And even I think I read some biography that they told him, you need to leave. This is not your space. You need to leave. And I think also one quote from Jean-Michel Jarre was interesting. He said, in my music, only the instruments are electronic. So he's a kind of a classical composer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a melody, rhythm, or harmony, but with new sounds. And Oxygen was a little bit, I don't know, an experimental album because it was made with a couple of synthesizers in his kitchen. Uh,
Right.
there was the early version of synthesizer, but it was nice, melodic, beautiful, and it picked up a lot. And it's a kind of bring you in the space. He did some more albums that were a little bit more experimental, like Zuluk, which is also based with a lot of sample. So that's the I don't know, one of the first sample using mainly samplers, and also synthesizer that work on samples. Um, so that was that. But at the same time, I don't know if it was the same time. Also, I was listening to some more experimental, like Xenakis. There's another one, Hugues Bars, who was doing music for Michel Béjart for ballet, and very rhythmic music, but also weird electronic stuff, but very good for dancing.
Yeah.
So I was interested by this stuff. I went to see some composition where prepare piano, and also inspired voice.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of expiring, breathing out, and then you speak like this. You know, you breathe in while you're speaking.
For sure.
So this kind of experiment, I found that interesting because it doesn't work all the time, but it's an idea, and sometimes idea are more or less well executed. But it's more like researching. Okay, let's try something new and see what works, what doesn't work. So that's a little bit around my influence. Um, you've got I don't know, Tangerine Dream. You've got Kraftwerk. Um, these kind of things. So yeah, that's quite interesting.
Yeah, the latter in particular. I'm I'm uh I'm also quite curious how you actually managed to saw like electronic music and that entire genre evolving alongside these advancements in immersive technology. And I know you've talked about it at length, but it's also just a thing of 20 to even 10 years ago, when the entire way that people, perceive and listen to music was different. But you think about this, and it's just like 20 to 10 to 20 years ago, there's no such thing as like people worrying about like streaming platform subscriptions and going from this app to the other. 10 years ago, people used Napster to download all of their music. They were pirating it. Then the pirating sort of declined because people could pay like a one subscription price to have it more convenient. And then all these licensing companies began taking like cuts of profits of whenever the music is used, like in a movie or in a video. And that ultimately saw their profits up. But then 20 years ago, people were still buying CDs. There's still some people that buy CDs, but relatively these days it's because the CDs are like cheap. It's not because it's their number one way to listen to music. Then 30 years ago, prior to me even being born, you guys had tapes. And I still
Mm.
remember when I was very young, there were like lots of little like tapes around the house that people would like put in the actual and the tape players. So the way that music has been consumed for the last like 30, 20, 10, even 10 years has massively changed. So given that you have this like sort of expertise in engineering, given that this is like pretty much your background field, that this is what you've done for work for so many years, with these like technologies sort of advancing one by one by one, How do you see that, like, happening alongside the different ways that people consume music now? Has it become more difficult to experiment with new technologies? Has it become easier? All this stuff that you mentioned, the spatial surround sounds, the binaural stuff. Is the fact that it's more accessible now more damaging to, music makers such as yourself, or is it actually beneficial for people as a whole?
Yes, mm, I'm just trying to put back my thought together. So one part, so as I say, I was in Fiji like for 20 years,
Yeah.
and there was not many record shops there. So the advent of the advent of digital music, where I could just download the music, was something helpful to me
Yeah.
because I could access music. Getting a CD or even a vinyl. Tropics are not very good to vinyls.
Hmm.
Having a CD was a little bit difficult. So digital music was there. I remember also when I was a student, I had some friends. They were selling mixtape
Yeah.
of music. So pirating, but they were selling mixtapes. So I bought a couple of them. I did organize also some. I don't know. In French, we call it the boom.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, play party in the garage with
Yeah.
with a deck and playing music. I did also a student. I did a couple of them. A little bit more professional, renting a space and having DJs and stuff like that, and making declaration to the right office. Um, so there's this area. So giving access. So all this digital streaming and piracy was good for giving access to people. Um, Making music now is very accessible, even with everybody hates the AI for creation, but the AI is providing access. So um, if today you want some music, you just go to an AI and you say, "Hey, I would like this kind of ambient music," and you've got it. So you don't necessarily need to learn piano, before you wanted music. Then you need to
Yeah.
have somebody to go on the piano and play it.
Yeah.
There was no recording equipment, no way to reproduce it. So I think it's the access, and I think we have evolved in this access. With all the streaming, before you had to buy your album, so iTunes, you had to buy your album, and streaming came in, and you had the buffet, everything that you want,
Yeah.
anytime, anywhere. One of the drawback of that I see is that you listen to some music, but you don't know who made it. It's not like a radio where they will announce a person, maybe give a little bit of biography, and then, oh, okay, that's this guy, this music, or this band, this music. So you listen music in continue, and you don't know who's playing. So it's very hard for you to say, oh, yeah, I like it, and then go back and look, and then say, okay, I'm going to save it, and start to follow this artist. Um, so one part there's this consumption of music, and then there's I know some friends they can't sleep at night without putting some background noise.
Hmm.
So you've got all this noise piece or sleep music or this mood music
Hmm.
uh, that exists, but it doesn't necessarily register with a genre, a band, or an artist specifically. So you've got all this access, but at the same time, people are, I believe, are looking for a connection. And I like to say, no, that music is free.
Hmm.
Nowadays, it's not the zero point 0.2 cents that you make on any streaming platform.
Yeah.
It's going to change much. So basically, music is free. Everybody has got access to free. But then there's more and more people that want to sponsor. So you're going back to, the old time, Beethoven, Bach, and all these great composers were sponsored.
Yeah. Of
You know,
course.
uh,
Someone paid them.
someone paid them to make their music, and it was somebody rich enough. So in the US, it's interesting because a lot of museum and things are working on that basis. They are not funded by the government or the state. It's
Hmm.
individual funders. So I think you've got this kind of stuff, and that part is also what Patreon is doing.
Yeah, of course.
giving a platform to give people Patreon or Bandcamp is
Mm-hmm.
giving. So know, personally, I started to buy back some vinyl, and I didn't have a turntable,
Mm-hmm.
but it was for having the object
Mm-hmm.
and helping the artist.
Yeah.
So this renewal of vinyl is that, yeah, I have an object. I don't have something which is on the playlist that I can't share with anybody. If somebody comes to my place, there's nothing in my place. There's no
Yeah.
books on the shelves. There's no music on the shelf. It's a void. There's a white wall. So it's going back to have this object, going to a house and see, okay, you've got paintings on the wall, you've got books, and then, you can look at and get an idea of, which person you are, and depending on the painting. So this art connection. So I think that people are going
Absolutely.
there. Uh, my feeling is that it's a renewal of vinyl
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah,
have.
vinyl is huge. I've heard people say vinyl is still huge. That wouldn't be an accurate way to describe it because there's no reason to use the word still. It felt like it was the number one like mode of music distribution back in the day, like prior to my time. And then CDs came around and people, why would you still use vinyl? And now it's like retro. Now it's like vintage. Now it's like a way to show people what kind of music that you like. I
Yeah,
feel like it's made such like a weird comeback.
yeah, yeah. And CD is coming back also because the same progress.
Yeah.
Um, Vinyl has a certain music color, let's
Mm-hmm.
call it that way, has a certain music color, and the CD is a little bit more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So some people are going back to CD because they want, more accurate music. Because vinyl, you need, in the mastering process, you need to do something so it fits on the vinyl. On CD, then you don't have to do that. You can go also to DVD, which has got a more accurate, uh, you know, um, I don't know, I think a CD is 44.1 kilohertz, but on DVD it's 48 kilohertz,
Mm-hmm.
all this sampling stuff. So, but yeah, so you see vinyl and CD coming back. More as a way to own an object, and then also you've got tapes. The advantage of tape and CD is that they are very easy to produce.
Yeah.
Vinyl is more complicated, so I saw that starting to become easier because the vinyl you need to do like a 300 vinyl run,
Mm-hmm.
and with such a low quantity, you need to sell half of them to pay for the cost of production.
Yeah.
So that means that not everybody can make a vinyl. Well, if they want to recover their money.
Yeah.
Anybody can make a vinyl. I think the total cost, mastering plus production of the vinyl, is about $2,000, and you get
Yeah.
300 of them. So it's not expensive, but it's not. You're gonna lose money. You're gonna sell like 50 of them, and then that's it. So you need to have a certain fan base to
Mm-hmm.
be able to sell like 150, 200 vinyls.
Yeah.
So there's still a step, when you start as an independent musician, you're gonna have 20 listeners on Spotify, so that's not enough for selling 200 vinyl. While with CD,
Yeah.
you get a CD recorder well, they're starting to remove it from computers, but it costs like $50 to get a CD recorder, and then you can press one and sell it.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. But
so
what you were saying, it feels like vinyls are very much like a collectible item, as I was referring to previously, because we've spoken to musicians in the past, people that have like even 10 or like 20,000 listeners on Spotify, and even they're just like, I can't even sell an album because there's no way to sell an album when you're like that size. You can post singles on the internet, people will listen to the singles. You can't really do the whole like coming out of an album thing that you could do in the 80s or the 90s or the 2000s. Unless you're signed with a big music label who will promote it for you, you need to have you need to have something going in order to sell an album, let alone to sell a vinyl, because then you have to have a consistent, group of hundreds of people who are willing to spend upwards of like 60, 70, 80, sometimes a few $100 onto, a rather inconvenient way of listening to music in order to demonstrate how much they like and support you. It wasn't
Yeah.
up until actually a few years ago that it became a major thing among people like who produce like more modern music like hip hop and rap and like even more in your category like EDM. For people who produce that kind of music to start going back to this retro route and like burning stuff onto vinyls and CDs. 10 years ago, it would have been pretty much unheard of for people to be walking around excited and happy that a rap album is now going to get burned onto a vinyl and they can go buy it and put it on their wall. It's just not this wasn't like a thing. It's this weird mixture of something that used to exist, this whole retro callback thing with this like very modern phenomenon. So I very much get like the whole thing that you're talking about where it's nowadays inconvenient.
Yeah, and yeah, but and also I saw that, for instance, like I saw know that some companies that allow you to do like a 20 or 50 vinyl run.
Yeah.
So they are not using the pressing; they are cutting the vinyl.
Yeah.
Literally, they are cutting it to do in this small run.
Hmm.
So 20, 50 vinyls that start to become interesting. You got Kickstarter, even Bandcamp has got a kind of a Kickstarter. You can have people.
Bandcamp, Kickstarter, Patreon, yeah, all of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you pay for the vinyl in advance, and then if you got 200 people that you are paying in advance for the
Yeah,
vinyl, then
that's a
you can
good way
send
of
it.
doing it because you get the money up front. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can send it for production. It's not going to be a loss. And if you don't have 200, then you didn't spend any money.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so, so that's a convenience that is coming. At the same time, I have the feeling also, vinyl was for DJs because DJ was still using, turntables.
Hmm.
So they would, look into they would go to a vinyl shop to look for the sample. Daft Punk is uh, most of their music is sample based from odd records. So they would go and look in vinyl and I like this song and maybe if I change it like this that would be an interesting song. So reading in vinyl was for a very specific market of remixer
Yeah.
or samplers and everything. So there was this kind of community. At the same time, also you can see in the world of performance music um, the rise of the DJ. Uh,
Hmm.
Also, for an organizer, it's easier to have a DJ than to have a band. A DJ, you just show up with a USB key, you plug it into your Pioneer stuff. They all have the same Pioneer turntable, so they don't even have to have a specific one. They come that you've got one DJ and they perform music in front of 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Uh, as a band, that's you've got like 10 people on stage. You need some equipment. You need to move all this stuff. This is a way bigger infrastructure. So the rise of the DJ is also a rise because of the economics of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I see, I've got my friend Joachim Garraud, who's a French stud DJ. What I like in him is that, yes, he's a DJ with a USB key, but also he has got a guitar, and then he has got, sometimes he brings some, I forgot, I think it's Pioneer or Roland, but he's got a kind of an MPC also. So he can have his playback and then at the same time perform the music.
Yeah.
And you start to see a little bit more. I have the feeling you start to see that a little bit more because, the joke is that, how can you be a DJ when you've got all when you've got your arms in the air?
For sure. Yeah.
That's a joke. So, um, you press play and then, when they zoom in, then you see the person is not turning the button, they just fake it. So you got some of it, and you've got the real DJ that is really doing the piece on the live and reacting to the feel of the people. And even when I perform live on modular, So modular is the stuff that you see here.
Yeah, yeah,
What I like is that there's a form of improvisation. I know, when I turn this button, that's the kind of sound I'm going to have. But also, I maybe turn it a little bit more or less than usual or do a different sequence. So there's a little bit of improvisation, and what I like is to react to the feel of the room.
yeah.
Uh,
Its performance is the same way as a guitarist would do it.
yeah, yeah, but it's a little bit. Sometimes I compare modular to jazz because there's
Mm-hmm.
a form of improvisation.
Yeah.
I've got some part, but I may not respect the way I'm doing this part. I may move one before the other one and change things as I play along, which is, a little bit more different than, you play a songs and then, it's really structured. And you may put different emotion into the song and the people will feel it. If you're playing a song bold or if you're playing a song where you're very, reacting to the public, uh, you can feel this kind of emotion. So I like this kind of live presence and emotion to be, put into the music and in front of the live audience. So yeah, so DJ, the good DJ are reacting to the audience. Okay, well, I'm not going to. My plan was to pass this track just after this one, but the people are not reacting to that. I know they're gonna react to instead of this track, so they're able to compose their set based on how the public is reacting to their music. So that's that's a good feel. But yeah, getting people live is changing. You see this stuff, and so that's why I have the feeling that people now are trying to reconnect with the human.
Mm-hmm.
I've done some study like past pandemic. Um, Movie theater haven't recovered from the pandemic, but live venue concert have recovered and gone above. And you feel that people are trying to find this human connection.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's interesting. I have the feeling also that there's a big brouhaha about AI at the
Mm-hmm.
moment. There's a lot of change happening with AI, and because you can go on social network and find it. AI posted post in your email. You've got an email that has been written by the AI and everything, and
Yeah.
it feels that uh, we're there. Yeah, so it's new, it's interesting, it's tough, but I think people are going to, not everybody, but a certain group are going to move away from that and try to find the human connection.
There already is like a large group of people from what I know because I have a friend in film school and he talks about how there's so many people there that are sort of refusing to adapt. There's obviously people who use AI as a form of like innovation to make their projects way better, and I expect that to be much the same thing in the world of music. From what I heard, there's people that I don't know how you would feel about this. There's people who make entire tracks using AI. Obviously, they're not good, but they're surprisingly better than what some humans would make. But there's a small like subsect of people who are very much like against it, who refuse to use it even for the most minor of things, to a degree that, I would consider asinine because it's just like, oh, I won't even use like AI to like grammar correct my email. I'll make terrible grammar mistakes in the email just to prove how much I hate AI. So yeah, that's very much like a phenomenon that you
Mm.
described. It
Well,
very much happens.
but you have to be careful of the Luddite effect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not touching anything. Um, but at the
You
same,
sort of become like the Amish, except it's with AI, and in 80 years it will be just like talk to the robot grandpa. No,
yeah,
I'm not talking to that thing.
yeah. But at the same time, I think an interesting parallel is the invention of photography.
Yeah,
Um, painting. The goal of
absolutely. Yeah,
painting was to paint as close as possible from reality.
yeah,
And then photography came in, and all this goal got shattered
absolutely. Man, I
because
didn't
no
even think of
photography
that
could do better
perspective.
than the painter, which created all this art movement of surrealism and then the new field of painting evolved from that because
Mhm.
you wouldn't compete with photography, so you started to do impressionism, surrealism, and all this kind of stuff came in. So I have the feeling on AI we may have this stuff. Um, my I don't know belief hope is that like for electronic music, then
Yeah.
making experimental music, this is not something that the AI will be able to do
Yep.
because what the AI is, it's a common denominator in kind of way.
Hmm.
So there's a whole field of experimenting with music and going into area that are not common. So that's my hope that more and more things like that. I have the feeling that you know I don't think everybody is going to be in this kind of group. I
Yeah.
don't even think that the majority, but there should be an enough community that will make life sustainable for some artists, or some art will be able to be sustained.
Hmm.
Um, you know, there's there's people that are fine to watch a movie where people stand up in front of the screen and with a shitty audio.
Yeah.
If the story is powerful, then it doesn't matter that the movie is in 4K or 2K,
Hmm.
or that the audio is mono. The story will transcend any technology. And there's sometimes people that they are not necessarily looking for the hi-fi quality and all this kind of stuff, but there's a group that will kind of look for that, and that should be enough. There's some artists that are successful, but their number on Spotify are non-existent.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, go and look for I don't know, Martin Subotnick or Pauline Oliveros numbers, or what's his name, Elian Radic on Spotify, and their number are terrible. I do, some of them I do better number than them, but they are well recognized. If you go in classical music, um, then you've got some very good composers that are not known on the streaming platform,
Yeah.
but they are in a certain space of I don't know, symphonic and classical music, uh, and they are making a living. So there's this group. So it's trouble is to find your niche.
Yeah, it's an entirely different game because there are people who have like 20,000, 10,000 listeners on Spotify who barely make a living. It's like they're making like McDonald's wages. Whereas there's like symphonic like orchestras who pull in hundreds of thousands of dollars like a year because they're like located in some like grand like central like stadium, and they're playing this music and there's like a dedicated audience of people who see it. But the kids aren't gonna stream it on Spotify. Like it's just not gonna happen. So
Mm.
those numbers can be like very, I would say they can be like very non-indicative of the actual success of the artist,
Yeah.
to avoid saying that they lie about it, because I don't believe that it's on purpose. But as you were saying with like the comparison between painting and photography, that was the best comparison that I think I've heard surrounding AI. Um, because a lot of the time people think of this like whole new innovation, which we've discussed at length. They think of this as like, oh, it's like the new, I don't know, when people started using Microsoft Paint on their Windows, which is just when people started using calendars on their phones. It's just none of these are comparable. But then when you think about photography and painting, it very much was a situation where people tried, there was this whole movement of realism where people tried to replicate the real world as much as possible and draw portraits, and for other people to be like, wow, this is just like the lifeline thing. That's the entire reason that the Mona Lisa became relevant as a painting, aside from the fact that it was literally stolen and it was irrelevant before then. But that whole movement was enshrined in the idea that we should have things that look like their real selves, and even that in itself had critics. And then along comes photography, and at first it's like very poor. It makes like a very poor imitation of what the real world is, therefore the comparison with AI, and then it starts becoming more lifelike and more lifelike and more lifelike. And now it is possible with like a very small device in your pocket to capture reality in like 4K, and everybody's doing it all the time, and it's constantly happening, and every single move that a person does is recorded. And it's this like fear that we've had. Sorry if I'm going on a tangent. I just find this very inspiring. Is this fear that we've had ever since 9/11 of this being like a surveillance state of constantly being recorded, constantly being watched. This has led to like a resurgence of books like 1984, and people reading dystopian fiction because they feel like that there's this constant pressure around them. Like everything that they do can be recorded. And voila, within the last like 2 years, now you can generate like fake videos of things that have never happened on the basis of like models trained on real videos. And it's like it's gone full circle because you could do painting, you could, take realism and then put fake things into it. You could put your own twist on it. Then photography evolved, and for around 200 years straight, just at a constantly ever growing, ever developing pace, we kept getting photos more frequently. We kept getting photos that are more related to the real thing. We documented two world wars and then plenty of smaller conflicts in clear, crystal clear imaging. The Vietnam War is captured on television. It changed the course of history. And now within the last 2 years, it's gone all the way back. And now you can fake things again, which is
Yeah.
like an insane peril when you think about it that way. And surely it has ripples not only across like the world of images and art and television, as you described with that analogy, but everything, all forms of art, including music.
Yeah, and the quote, the media is a message.
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely. I just want to touch back on the subject that we spoke about at the very beginning of the podcast. You mentioned that you were raised and you studied in France, and then you moved to Fiji for a long time, and now you're back in sort of the west coast of the US. How did that happen? And also, how different are like the scenes in each of these places? You did mention that in Fiji, like there were no like there's nothing there. So how was that like?
well, let's not say there's nothing there.
Yeah, there's
It's a bit
I've
caricatural.
met someone from Fiji, and all I know about that place is that they told me that there was nothing there. So I'm just going back what I heard
Yeah,
from
yeah.
my
Well,
friend.
I've noticed, do not ask the local to about the place to visit in their own place.
Yes.
The local don't know their place.
No.
It's funny. You go to some place and you ask the locals, and they never been a tourist in their own place, so they don't know what things
No,
to.
I know so many people from London, and half of them have never like seen the Big Ben or like the Queen's Palace. It's just like, yeah, people don't do tourist around their own area. No.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I live in France. As I say, I don't know. We move a little bit around in France. I like the time that I spent in Marseille.
Oh yeah.
When I was doing a study, I think it was a very lively city,
Very warm.
very warm. Um, I don't know. It seems to all the places that I really like in Fiji, Suva, then well, Marseille, Suva, and San Francisco. These are harbor city.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of immigration due to it's an harbor. You've got view on the ocean, so you can see the horizon. If you're
Yeah.
in Paris, finding the horizon is very difficult.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's a nice city, but it's very difficult. So it's and all this city I've got, you know, they're a big city, but at the same time they've got their neighborhood
Yeah.
and their little village. So within the city, you got village. If you are in Paris, it's more like administrative arrondissement, the administrative area. But if you are in Marseille, then you say, "Oh, this neighborhood," and this neighborhood is a kind of a village that expanded, and everything is together. So
Yeah, I can imagine how different it must be from Paris. Yeah.
yeah, like in San Francisco, you've got the Castro area, so that has got a very different culture and
Hmm.
area which is different from the missions
Hmm.
and all the inner subset. So everybody kind of have their own cultural difference. So that's the stuff that are interesting. Um, Fiji was I don't know. It's I say it's big enough. It's nearly 1 million people. So you got enough goods and things. Um, I was there. There was the beginning of the internet. I helped to push for more internet, develop some of the internet in some also the Pacific Island country.
Hmm.
I For my job, I visited like I don't know 20 island countries in the Pacific.
Yeah.
Stuff that you don't see on the card. I met some good friends like I've been to Tonga, Kiribati,
You've been to
Vanuatu,
Nauru?
Solomon Island. Which one?
You've been to Nauru?
Yeah, I've been to Nauru several times.
How's Nauru?
It's
It's
nice.
tiny, isn't it? It's tiny.
Yeah, it's tiny. You take a car and then you go around in 30 minutes, maybe 1 hour. But it's also an interesting place because they became very rich due to phosphate mining.
Yeah.
Phosphate is, bird dropping. So over many years, the birds have creating this phosphate, and then they mine it, and then they were very rich. And then the phosphate finish, and they were not doing a real good investment. So the place became very
What
weird.
do they use phosphate for?
Matches, if I recall.
So they make the matches out of bird shit?
Yeah, and what is it? Then what you call it? Stuff to raise plant. Um,
Right, yeah. No, I know what you're talking about.
damn, the word escaped me. No,
I don't know the word in English either. I no.
fertilizer. Here we go.
Yeah.
If I if I remember a little bit of my chemistry, I may be totally wrong. But yeah, this is some of the prime components, and there's very few places. So they became very rich, and then the investment were not that great, and then they had difficulties. And but yeah, it's interesting, and and the people are very nice. There's some very nice communities. Um, have been in Kiribati, and people go and fish fresh lobsters and fresh fish and everything. At the same time, if you try to find the salad you want,
Yeah,
that needs
no.
to be that needs to be imported.
Yeah.
So if you try to bring a Western mindset in some of this culture, then it's very difficult and very expensive. If you adapt to the local culture, then you've got a really good and fun time.
Yeah.
Um, so that's quite interesting to be in this type of environment, and there's a lot of oral tradition, and people will meet, I don't know, formally, but it's a little bit informally. It's not like it's more than the church meeting. They meet in the evening, and there will be a uh, you know uh, for whatever reason. And there will be a set of speakers, and it's all organized, and everybody drinks the local drinks, and speak on turn and everything. So it's interesting, this kind of a little bit oral culture and singing and dancing. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it seems like entirely different perspective on things because I know there's a lot of people that you mentioned like the Western mindset. They do go to these places with like a Western mindset, and they like touch down on the little island. There's like where's the McDonald's?
Yeah.
Where can I get an Uber? Where can I get gas for my car? No, there's nowhere. There's no swimming pools here. It's just we're
Oh, you
used
want a swimming pool? That's the ocean.
yeah, exactly. Well, they're used to the swimming pools. You have a certain mindset. You're not quite ready to adopt a different one. But
But
it's
yeah,
a different life.
yeah. Uh, though one advantage of the McDonald's, whatever country you are, if till it takes you about 1 or 2 days to understand the local food, then McDonald's is a safe place to go and eat till you understand where you can get food.
That
So I've
is a
seen
good
it.
thing, yeah.
I've seen it in many places.
No, that's
It's not the great food, but it's the same food, same standard. But yeah,
well,
once you start to
no, no,
understand
it's a
where is the
little bit
good local
different.
food, and
But
then yeah,
absolutely true. It is a little bit different though, because I do know that in Europe you get wraps. You get the wraps. When I lived in Europe, you can get the wraps at the McDonald's. Nowhere in the US do they give it. And I've actually like figured out this is a trick that I actually did use when I moved to England for a year or two. And you know, you don't really know how expensive the food is going to be in a place or where people buy it up until you're sort of like immersed in that environment. It's the same thing as with settling down somewhere. You don't know what are, the cheapest areas of somewhere to live or what are ways to save money up until you've already like spent all of your money on living someplace.
yeah, and which neighborhood to avoid and
Yeah,
tourist.
exactly. Which people to avoid, which scams not to fall for until you fall for the scams. Yes.
Yeah, until you start to understand the stuff, and having a good
Nobody can tell it to you. You have to learn it firsthand by making all these sorts of mistakes. Yes.
Yeah, having a good fish and chips in London is awesome, but you need to know where to find it.
Yes, exactly. No,
Uh,
it's you know, you can come across some places where you think, "Oh, this is going to look quite appetizing," and you eat it and you're just like, "Yeah, I get why people say like British food isn't that good, you know."
mm,
Uh yeah, it is interesting, but I think well, on that note, I think like the best fish and chips I ate was in Dover. And it's one a very interesting thing about Dover is when you go up to like the actual like overview tower and it's above like the Channel Tunnel, you can actually like see France in the distance. Like that's the closest I've been to your country, I'm ashamed to say. The
okay.
we have a lot of we call them snowbirds here because me and my co-host were both located in Florida. There are so many Quebecois that go down here.
No,
The
okay.
same culture shock for us visiting them. He's been to Montreal, Jordan. It's the same shock for us visiting them as for them visiting us because for them it's like it's they're not used to it being hot outside. I assume it's much the same thing in San Francisco.
Well, Fiji is very hot.
Yeah.
San Francisco is interesting because you know there's the Carl of the fog, and then the Alaskan current that brings a lot of coldness into the area. Despite the fact that San Francisco is more south than France,
Yeah.
it's still colder than it's way colder than Marseille.
Yeah.
Or you know, look, it feels more like you're in the north of France than in the south of France, despite the
Yeah,
fact
yeah.
that you are.
Well, if you look at like the latitude, then
Yeah.
it falls along like the same line as Berlin or something.
Well, San Francisco, I think no, it's more like Spain or something like that. I
Yeah,
don't
but
remember.
oh really? Yeah. I remember reading somewhere that there's something off about the latitude, but I know that it's a more temperate climate because in Marseille you're literally right on there on the Mediterranean Sea. You're right next to Italy.
Yeah,
It's going to be hot in the summers, whereas, you know, in San Francisco you're sort of on the harbor
but
and it's
yeah, and where you got the
anywhere else
Alaska
is not.
current that is coming from up north.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
this is
well, that's
very,
also a big part of it,
yeah,
yeah.
that's very cold water that cool
From
everything.
literally Alaska, yeah, that's
Yeah,
literally coming down. That's
yeah.
one important point.
So you know the water current is changing the scape. But yeah, that's interesting. And but it's sunny. I've got like a very nice sun today, uh,
Good.
and so it's warm. The water you need, you need a suit to get into the water. There's a lot of big surfer community here, but you need the suit. Nobody goes swimming.
Yeah,
Or you need to go down to Los Angeles or San Diego so you can swim, which is like 6 hours drive from here
yeah.
down south. So, but it's an interesting community. Um, Coming back also on the music, what I found out in San Francisco is one of the um, I don't know. It's one of the city pioneering electronic music.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I've got the left coast T-shirt, but in the US you got the left coast and the
Right
East
Coast,
Coast,
yeah.
West Coast, East Coast, and the two philosophy of making music. So you know you had that the Moog modular synthesizer. Moog was more like I'm gonna put a normal keyboard
Yeah.
and only the sound will be electronic, but it's a standard composition of melody and scales and Western style. While in the East Coast, with the influence of Morton Subotnick and Don Buchla to execute it, and that's more like well, let's really experiment. I like Morton Subotnick. He said. Um, my goal in music is to make, my goal in music is for you to not know if it's music or noise.
Okay. Well, there you go. I've been to
Oh,
some experimental concerts that are pretty much like that, but no, I've actually heavily enjoyed them. I like when people mess around with stuff like that.
yeah.
Um,
So that's West Coast, and then you got this very pioneering because if you look, this is where FM synthesizers was created with John Schoening.
yeah.
The first DAO were created also in the Karma in Stanford, which led to what is it, Max with Max Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so all this composing software, MIDI was created there.
Yep.
with sequential and also Roland in Japan. You've got the Buchla synthesizer, which are not well known, but a very they were there at the same time as Moog in the 70s. You've got sequential as a manufacturer. You used to have I can't remember, from Santa Cruz. I forgot they were doing. Damn, I can't remember the name of the not EMS. Is it EMS? No, EMS is in the UK. I try to remember. So there was also a very popular brand of synthesizer from Santa Cruz, from the University of Santa Cruz. So there have been a lot of you had at the San Francisco Tape Music Center, which was
Yeah.
one of the first outfit doing electronic music, with Morton Subotnick doing the first the first electronic album.
Yeah.
Um, so
You'd imagine, right? Like Silicon Valley's not far away. All of that stuff must, sort of circle around from the universities to the
yeah,
actual, production to the tech companies.
yeah,
It's
you had
nice that
that.
everything is like in such proximus like distance and must create like this blend where it's all this sort of stuff like forcing in on itself
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
collaborating in
so
a way that you
yeah,
wouldn't
so when
normally.
you look outside of the tech, you've got this kind of community, and still there, sequential is there. Uh,
Yeah.
um, I didn't meet Don Buchla because I arrived, and then that's roughly at the time where he passed away. But I met Dave Smith from Prophet 5, Susan Shani, which is performing on the. I did I don't know, a weekend workshop,
Yeah.
a few others, so spending a weekend with her where she explained our life or principle of making music and stuff. It's really awesome. Um, uh, Buchla still exists here. I've got some friends they work for Buchla, some friends work for Sequential. There's a Karma. UC Berkeley also as a department. The first Buchla synthesizer is still at Mills College.
Wow.
So it's an interesting community of musicians. Um, there's a few well-known bands that came out of San Francisco. So there's a good audio area. There's a couple of I joined recently the Audio Engineering Society. So they have a San Francisco chapter. Uh,
Nice.
every year they do a studio crawl, and it's very nice because you know uh, visiting a studio is complicated because you need to rent it.
Yeah.
But once a year, via that, then they open their studio for an afternoon, so you can go from studio to studio and see the equipment, talk to the people, you know, um, share
It's
some
great. They have like
ideas.
an open house. Yeah.
Yeah, open house. I've been to um, Romanensky. I think Michael Romanensky studio has got a full Atmos studio. Is well known on mastering. Um,
Nice.
Busy Lewis also has got an Atmos studio. I've been to his place. And the Howard Wiener mixer mastering engineers. So it's nice to go in this environment and see what's going on. There's a couple of Foley studios. There's a movie studios. There's a lot of people that work either with Lucasfilm here,
Hmm.
Soundwalker Studio or Pixar. So it's an interesting, artistic community that exists in San Francisco. And also that's a way for me to get off my normal sphere of people. Um, I work in tech, and that opened me some horizon. I co-host an open mic with some friend every month called Resident. It's at Northbridge, an hackerspace, and you meet people from all kind of life, different type of artists, or kind of life, of kind of means, and it's really interesting because it opens your horizon. It's like traveling in different countries, meeting people at different stage in their life and different job situation, opens you up and allow you to become a little bit more open-minded and receptive to people than to be necessarily only with the tech bros that are talking to you about
Yeah.
AI every day.
Yeah,
And I
for
did
sure.
AI when I was in school, so I know what AI is.
Yeah. It must be an entirely different experience, and I can understand coming from the perspective of wanting to be with more artsy people rather than the tech people, even from with someone with very much like a tech background as yourself. Because when I talk to tech people, especially ones that are very like high up in their thing, a lot of the newer ones seem very like stuck up, and like they're very much like in it just because it's like the new thing. It's with the chart of like the early adopters, and this is we're like in the late majority section. These are like the people that are coming in after the
Mm.
boom, and they're trying to profit off of it. But no, that's awesome that you guys have all these like little like tight internet communities over there in San Francisco. I wasn't even slightly aware of it.
Yeah. The thing also I found out is that the modular synthesizer community,
Yeah.
which is not necessarily entirely modular, but it's coming from the modular synthesizer community, so electronic, and then you got normal synthesizer and everything. Um, I don't know. In the US, I know it's very open-minded.
Hmm.
Um, I've seen some like singer-songwriter communities, but sometimes some people are, if I put you down, then that will help me to rise up.
Yeah.
While in the modular, it's let's help everybody. You know,
Yeah.
let's have feedback. Let's help everybody. Let's make event together and things like that. Sometimes if you want, I don't know, if you want people to appreciate your music, or if you want to perform, the best way to do it is you organize your own performance.
Yeah. For sure.
Because asking somebody to book you and say, "Hey, I would like to perform in this venue, and I would like you to invite me to come and perform," is sometimes hard. The best way is to say, "Okay, I'm going to book this venue and set up a performance with some friend," and sometimes you have to do everything yourself,
There you go.
especially in the beginning.
That's a lot of interesting topics. I think the one that is interesting to me the most is like the entire like process of booking venues and how people manage that, because to me it's like somewhat arbitrary. I mean, it's a whole nother thing for running a podcast, but I can imagine it must be a lot easier to do in San Francisco rather than like a small, a place where no one would even attend such a show. But what I'm thinking about is like you mentioned the West Coast, you mentioned the East Coast. There's a third coast that I'm closer to than both of these, and that's the Gulf Coast, the South. There's no music scene here, like along that line from like Texas to Tampa, Florida, and then down to the Keys, right about where I live. It's just this. You mentioned that the West Coast scene is very like intertwined, but like even here, this is like incomparable to like the East Coast. There's no music played here. It's a very silent,
I don't
like
know.
bird forgotten coast. Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Let, let, let,
I
let,
think
let, let
people
me
here
make a
are.
call. People that are listening to that in comments.
I don't know. People
Tell
here
us
are
where
pretty
to
weird.
go. Tell us where to go on the Gulf Coast to
Yeah,
listen to some
yeah,
music.
yeah. Hit up Houston or something. No, but yeah, this is it's very interesting how people manage to do all that.
Well, in what was it? Houston or Austin? You've got the band that did the Stranger Things.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, you know what you should do though? Like at towards the end of your career, you need to come back to Nauru. You need to do the largest EDM concert in Nauru. You can easily do that. You can easily do that. Like
Oh,
you can get
yeah,
150
yeah.
people in. It will be the largest concert ever done in Nauru. And you can put in your biography, I did the largest concert in a specific country.
Yes, yes.
Just don't tell them what the country is.
But it's okay. No, no, it's fine. Yeah, and yeah, you can do a few stuff in the Pacific Island. But yeah, I think
You've
so.
been to Hawaii?
Hmm?
You've been to Hawaii?
Yeah, I've been to Hawaii.
Is Hawaii fake? People say Hawaii is fake, that all the stuff is just taken from other Polynesian islands. They don't really have like stuff of their own.
I don't know. So I only been to Honolulu in Hawaii, so I haven't
Oh,
been
okay,
to
fair enough.
outside. But what I hear from friends is that the outside of Honolulu is more like the Pacific Island. I watched recently what is it? Ship of War on
Yeah.
on Apple. It's really nice.
Hmm.
It's a really a Polynesian culture, and it's very nice. So if you can watch it, but yeah, I don't know. Well, you got Honolulu, which is I don't know, the bus are air conditioned, and you've got the five-star hotel in front of a very nice beach, but they all have a swimming pool. So it's interesting, but it's a nice place also, and people are very nice there.
Yeah.
Um, um, so yeah,
Yeah. On
I
that
don't know,
show,
but I think it's from
yeah.
San Francisco you can fly direct to Hawaii or Fiji or even Cook Island.
Yeah.
But it's easy for American to fly to Hawaii because your driving
Of
license
course. Yeah.
works there,
Yeah.
your phone will work there, and your credit card will work there.
Everything. Yeah.
You're in an environment. I've been
Yeah.
to like Nauru or Tuvalu. There's no tourist.
Yeah.
Everybody goes there for because of a job. I met one or twice a tourist there, but it's really rare.
Yeah. On the show, it pisses me off that the best series nowadays are all on Apple TV because they've like bought all the good producers and all like the good writers and all like they have all the permits to film in all the special places and do all the special effects and it's bro they've taken the mantle from I feel like HBO Max with the production.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it feels a little bit that way. I think also because I've been interesting on Atmos music. Let's go back
Yeah.
to that. And so Peter Gabriel released his last album. There's three different mix.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's a bright mix, there's a dark mix, and there's an Atmos mix.
Yeah.
And you can get the Blu-ray. So there's a 2 CD, and then there's a Blu-ray that has got the Atmos mix. Uh,
Yeah.
or you can listen to it on Apple Music. The three different stuff. So I would be very interesting to know what are the statistic, the stat for each one of them.
Yeah.
Is Atmos doing better? Apple Music said that he would remunerate more Atmos,
Mm-hmm.
so in terms of streaming, but I've never seen it in my numbers, though my numbers
Mm-hmm.
are very low, so I don't know. You can't get information from Apple Music because it's part of all the online presence. So Apple Music is part of the iCloud.
Yeah, Apple monopolizes it. It's they
Yeah, yeah,
they
but
sort of
also,
link everything together. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
good at
So, but
this.
you don't see, is this part profitable or not profitable? How much money is in it? Because it's all the iCloud. So Apple Music, Apple TV.
It's
So
all linked. You have to have an account. Yeah, I'm aware.
no,
I've
no, no, but
yeah,
if you look at the quarterly statement
yeah,
from Apple, you're not able to figure it out. So they can afford maybe to lose money on certain production in Apple TV. So to
yikes.
make maybe to make art.
Yeah,
So it's stuff like Netflix is they don't do anything else, so they have to make money on their product.
yeah,
Apple can afford to lose money on one product because the other product is making money and one feeds the other one.
yeah. They don't.
So
They do not care. They can lose money
so
all they want.
yeah, it's very hard to see. Okay, is Atmos really working
Mm-hmm.
in terms of listeners?
Yep.
Spotify is big. Spotify just went into hi-fi.
Yeah.
So, from that perspective, there was not a big demand of high quality music
Yeah.
from, their stuff. Apple went there as a differentiated factor. Is it really working or, you know, they needed something to differentiate, but it's not commercially viable for them. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. This is all the question that I have, and it's hard to get information. Like, it's very interesting as an artist. It's very interesting as a listener because I can listen to some really piece of music and then in special sound and there's some very good music, but
Mm-hmm.
it's you know from a more business perspective. Sometimes people don't like me because I go into business of music
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and the money stuff. Oh, it's dirty. I can't see that information, and I'm curious by that.
Yeah. So, Frank, one last question. What it is that you do these days, in regards to music?
Um, I don't know. I've been a little bit. I need to get back a little bit to it. So, um, I've got my quadraphonic, so I've been performing with a patch for I don't know quite a while, and I'd like to record it and release it officially. There's a couple of releases that exist
Mm-hmm.
because of live performance
Yeah.
that I did with it, but I'd like to record it and make it in special. Um, One of the last project that I did was with a friend, Doug Liner.
Mm-hmm.
We did a concert together about my quadraphonic equipment, and he said, "Oh, if you bring your quadraphonic, I'm gonna do a quadraphonic piece." And he's using a Surge modular. Surge modular is a third, there's Moog, Buchla, and the Surge. Surge is not well known, but that was the DIY modular that you could build yourself. So he is on the Surge, and then he did this piece, and he recorded it in quad, and then he came home, and then we made an Atmos album out of it. So
Okay.
we use the stem in quad, and we hand them to put them even more in space, and it's quite nice. And also, I was playing, producing music in electronic form,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I used that to release a Blu-ray album. So
Mm-hmm.
the trouble with the Blu-ray is that not many people have a Blu-ray system and the system to perform it, but I wanted to see the Blu-ray release. And yes, there's a difference in quality from Atmos streaming to Blu-ray, because Blu-ray is not compressed, Atmos streaming is compressed.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that as a physical stuff. So that was interesting, and it's not complicated, too complicated. It's a little bit hard to know, okay, who do you need to talk to, which company is able to do it, but it's not complicated and expensive. But it's hard to put the things together. And
Yeah.
once you have them, then that's okay. So that's the stuff that I've been doing. Um, so yeah, I need to record to do another modular album and in Atmos, but move further than the quadraphonic. I've got a nice playlist on Apple Tidal and I think maybe on Amazon Music of everything that I could find, which is modular synthesizer in
Yeah.
Atmos. So
Nice.
if you look for this kind of stuff, is and recently, because I've got a bit of spare time, I've been working on a project to help people organize event. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I co-host one electronic open mic, and I help on one or two others. And we use Google Form to track people, and then they sign up. And we do that online because we don't want people to show up like with a ton of equipment and say, "Sorry, the
Mm-hmm.
open mic is full." You
Yeah.
know, so we do sign up online. So I've been trying to develop this stuff to help organize and automatically the email and organize the stuff. Put that in the calendar. So that's the thing that I've been doing. But yes, I want to use more of my electronic music gear. I've performed recently to um, what is it called? Woodstock Ozen.
Yeah.
So that's a bunch of a friend um, from the Santa Cruz. They redid this festival here around Santa Cruz after 20 years. So I went there to perform. I was there, redo it again. Um, and a couple of places like that. So
Absolutely.
and I want to go more into so I went on Thursday. So the Audio Engineering Society was doing an event at the Dolby HQ
Yeah.
on space in compositional music, and this is really what I like, composing directly for a special rendition. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what you find in Atmos at the moment is that it's the artist send the stems
Mm-hmm.
to an immersive engineer that is going to put them in place, but it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily that the artist compose for space directly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking for artists that compose for space. And at this event, that was interesting because it gave me a couple of more ideas that I want to explore about using space in composition element. There's my friend Joachim that also, I kind of push him, stress him to release an album in Atmos. So the album is out as a vinyl for the moment in stereo, but I think the Atmos is going to come later. But it's electronic music. He's a well-known producer. Uh, he he produced David Guetta and Jean-Michel Jarre, some of his stuff. So I'm waiting to listen to his album in Atmos because he composed it in for Atmos from the beginning. So I'm really interesting to see how he managed space.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting. So yeah, I want to do a little bit more music in space and go crazy. Sometimes people say, yeah, you're getting me dizzy with your music. That makes things moving around and everything. And
Yeah.
maybe I've finished with that. Quadraphonic or music in space is very hard to explain.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like an experience.
Yeah, well, of course.
I don't know if you've seen Avatar in 3D.
Yeah.
Uh, do you remember that Avatar was in 3D?
Yeah, I do. I did watch it in 3D. But
Yeah,
that
you
was
watch it in
long
3D,
ago.
but
That was ages ago.
do you remember that this stuff was here and this stuff was there? No, you remember the story.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily you remember that things. You remember the story and you remember that your experience was better in 3D. But
Yes.
you're not necessarily
That's
remembering.
how they marketed it as well, yeah.
Yeah, but you not necessarily remember that. Oh yeah, this character was here while this character was there. You're not necessarily remembering the 3D. You remember the story and
Yes.
the experience that you have, and the experience wasn't.
Yes.
And special music is the same stuff. You're not necessarily remembering that the music was special,
Mm-hmm.
but that the experience that you have while listening to it was better.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm saying it's hard to explain it. And I say, go to a concert with special music to experience it, and then you understand what we are talking about special music.
Yeah.
It's,
Awesome.
it's this
I'll make sure
emotional
to check it.
factor that
Yeah, it's a
it's
whole
very
different
hard to
thing
explain
hearing about it
emotions.
than experiencing it, you know?
Yeah,
All right, cool. Frank Martin, very glad to have you on. It was a long and extended discussion.
thanks
Uh,
for Jacob.
thank you so much for coming on.